Hey everyone, this is Larry from wstrades.com doing my continuation video on the weekly watch list series where I go over what the indexes are doing, what I think they're going to do for the following week, as well as give a few tickers that I'll be keeping an eye on and possibly putting trades on for this week. So right now I've got the futures pulled up. We have about 6 hours left until futures open up, or until the market opens up. Right now you can see that NQ, which is Nasdaq futures, are down about 0.5%. Russell futures, same thing. Dow futures, about 0.25%. And SPY futures, or S&P 500 futures, about 0.3%. So I'm going to pull up the actual index ETFs and kind of see what we can learn from there. So Q's already pulled up, so this is QQQ. This is the Nasdaq ETF, and as you can see, I still have the fibs pulled up. Probably going to end up having to change those soon. So the last 3 days we had this insane rip where we had this massive gap from Wednesday going into Thursday. Thursday just ripped super hard. Friday not too big of a gainer, but still a big gain. So right now with the current fibs pulled up on them, I'm thinking, for me, this was just too big of a move in 3 days. I think we're going to see either a slight sell-off or a little bit of consolidation. I'd like to see the Qs kind of stay above this 367 level. I don't know if they will, because like I say, this just was a crazy rip for 3 days. I would have liked to see kind of a more gradual move to not kind of exhaust buyers, but you never know with the indexes, and especially with earnings going on. A lot of companies are reporting third quarter earnings right now, so we could see, this thing could hit an all-time high. Everything, I was talking to James about this, and I actually closed out my Nasdaq position because this was just such a crazy 3-day move. But everything that I'm looking at on the charts, my indicators that I like, everything's, nothing's telling me that this runs over, except for in my head that, this was just too big of a rip to go on for 3 days, that we're not going to see some sort of a pullback. So in my head, I'm thinking we're going to have a nice little pullback. I'd like to see it come touch like this golden ratio, this 363 level. But all of my indicators, everything on the chart saying that it's not. So, if it can stay above 367 level, I'll like that, and just kind of chill for a minute before making a massive move higher. Then, I'll be happy. But right now, like I say, my head tells me we're gonna have a pullback. Futures are selling off a bit, but not too much. So, as soon as the market opens, that could completely get wiped out. It's only 0.5%. The only time you see really big moves is, futures are down, 1% or more. So, yeah, anyways, I think that we are due for a little bit of pullback, or at least some consolidation. I don't see this thing ripping too much higher, on the Qs at least. So, yeah, just look for some consolidation between 370 and 367 level. Now let's pull up SPY. It's the S&P ETF, and again, I've had the fibs. If you watch the other videos in the series, still have the same fib levels drawn until something changes. And again, same thing. We had massive rip, and this thing could not break through this 446 level. So SPY, for me, I'm thinking that with this 3-day rip, we're going to see a slight pullback, some consolidation in between 441 and 446. But if we can break above this 446 level, then, shoot, we might even test the all-time highs. I don't know. So just keep an eye on those two levels, the 446 as some sort of resistance, and the 441 as support. Let's check out Dow, DIA, zoom in, and yeah, same thing. That was selling off a bit differently than the Qs and SPY was, but same thing. We had this just big rip going into the last 3 days of last week, so we might have a pullback. But with Dow, and I was telling James this, he was talking about on the podcast he might go selling calls on Dow, but Dow actually finished above this 23.6 fib level. They actually closed above it, so this might start acting like support for them. So Dow, I don't think is going to sell off too much more. And another thing that I was telling James, and I'm just going to pull it up on the Qs because it was very important. Come on. So the Qs, and I spoke about it on my last the weekly watch list. So if you pull this up on the weeklies, man, I need to delete some of this stuff. My chart's looking messy. The Qs were, they dipped below the 21. I'm gonna delete these fibs. Get this out of here so we can actually see something. Oh, removed wrong. All right. So now things are a little bit clearer. So I told James if we didn't have on the weekly the Qs close above the 21, then we were going to be in trouble. And it didn't close below the 21 on the weekly under any days or any week. So this week you can see it sold off. You got this wick sticking out, and then ended up finishing right above it. And that's when I was looking at it, and I was like, dude, if this thing closes below that, then we're gonna be in some trouble. And same thing, this thing 2 weeks ago sold off super hard, hit this trend line, and then ripped back, closed above it. Last week was looking like we were gonna have some more selling off, and then just ripped right above this 21. So right now, it's another thing that keeps me thinking we're gonna have nice bullish moves in the Qs is the weekly. It will just not close. As you can see, pull this chart up and look at it. The Qs won't close below the 21. So same thing with SPY. They just haven't closed below the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly charts. On the dailies, you'll see they'll close below it a few days, even going into a Friday, but then every time it just rips right above it. So 21 EMA seems to be very important for the weekly chart on the indexes. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. And that's another thing that's just, making me think, even though we had this crazy rip the past 3 days, that the indexes might test the all-time highs, this week coming up, especially with a lot of earnings coming out. People have good guidance, they've got good numbers, depending on what they are. We could see a massive rip where I'd like to see some consolidation, but it's probably not going to happen. So yeah, just keep an eye on that 21 on the indexes, on the Qs, on SPY, on DIA, and if we end up ripping down below that, just make sure that every week on the weekly chart that we're closing above it. Now I'm going to go through a few tickers that are kind of caught my eye. I'm going to go through the bullish side. I've got 2 on that, and the first one is SPG. Let me zoom out. Go to the daily. All right, so on the daily chart, you can see, zoom in just to this time frame, this price level right here, where you can see my crossbars coming across. It's about the 130, we'll call it 137 level. You can see it hit here, almost hit here, almost hit here, hit here, hit here, and then actually broke above this. So this I'm looking at a nice bullish play. I don't know how much more. As you can see last week, this thing just kept on ripping higher. I don't know how much more it has in it, especially it's 2 ATR up, but I'm thinking this 137 level is going to start acting like nice support now that it broke through as a resistance level. So for me, I'm probably going to be selling premium at about the 136, 137 level. See what I can get for that. And all of my indicators, same thing. This thing started firing to the upside. RSI is not quite overbought. It's kind of extended, but it's not too bad. This is the new indicator. Actually, an old indicator. I built this thing quite a while ago, but I need to add it to the website. It's the WS Trades GGI lower indicator, and that thing says this thing's going to keep ripping. So, yeah, for like I say, if I'm looking at this and I see this massive rip higher through resistance, so I don't know how much higher it's going to go, but I don't think it's going to go lower than the 137 level at this point. So I'm probably selling puts at around that. Another one is NTAP. And this was the same thing. As you can see, zoom in, we had this price level about at, I don't know, we'll call this 94. At 94, where price came up, hit it, retraced, came up, hit it, retraced, and then actually broke above it, but just slightly. So it only closed 42 cents above it on Friday, but now that's looking like they finally were able to close above that resistance level. So thinking there's probably going to be a nice move. This one's actually more, I'd be inclined to say this thing has more of a upward potential than the last one, SPG, because we didn't have some crazy rip for a week straight. So yeah, I'm thinking definitely wait for confirmation, but I'm thinking this definitely has a nice move up going on. And a couple of bullish ones, bearish ones. I'm gonna go to WRK. Zoom out. Same, and this is the same thing. These things are hitting a few of my scanners, and I pull them up and look at the price action, and same thing, but opposite as the other two tickers that we looked at. So with this, you had nice support level around we'll call it 47.50. See the price level hit here, couldn't break through, just kind of chopping around. Came up, had a nice little rally, came down, tried to hit it again and break through, rallied above it, and then we had this massive sell-off on Friday that sold below that level. So right now I'm thinking we're probably going to start acting like support or resistance. This thing might come up and hit that 47.50 level and then keep on tracing down. I have no idea. I'm actually going to pull up the news because that's a nasty looking candle. I'm guessing they got a downgrade. Hold 47. Yeah, that's it's funny. All of these price upgrades and downgrades, they always seem to have their price level set at price action where I'm looking at it. So yeah, they're saying it's worth $47, and I'm saying that they sold below 47 at this point, so they're probably not going to go above that for now. So I'd be looking at selling call spreads at just above that 47 level. All right, one more. We're going to GPS, and this is bearish as well. I'm gonna zoom out, and this is same thing, and this is definitely waiting on confirmation on this one, because if we zoom into recent price action, you see this candle right here finished right at let's see, closed at just above 22, and we're at 22.14 was the close on Friday. It tried to hit that and then kind of got bought up a little bit, but in this massive downtrend, I'm assuming it's going to continue. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have earnings coming up for another month or so, so I don't think that's going to save them. Maybe back to school shopping. This is Gap Inc., by the way, the clothing company. Maybe that's going to save them if they have some good earnings, but you got the stacked EMAs bearishly. You're short on the parabolic SAR. This thing fired to the downside. The GGI indicator, not yep, yeah, that closed red too. So yeah, sorry Gap, but I think you're going lower. Tried to save itself here, but yeah, Gap, I'm looking for a nice move lower. Probably going to be selling calls or possibly buying puts. I'm going to see the pricing on this tomorrow. So anyways, that's it for this week. If you have any tickers that you want me or James to go over, give our technical analysis on, leave them in the comments. Like and subscribe, and go head over to the website if you want any of the scanners that kind of pull up the ideas or the tickers that I'm looking at going into the weekly watch list or anything like that. It's all over the website, which is wstrades.com.